AgWeek Weather is sponsored by Bremer Bank. Connect with a banker today at bremer.com.
Will these April showers bring May flowers next week? Here's John with our AgriWeather outlook.
Good evening. The pattern of the North American continent appears to be undergoing a fairly significant change as we segue into May. The cold weather really retreating. Now, that's seasonal. This time of year, I mean, it's possible to get really cold weather in May, but it does get fairly unusual just because of the strength of the sunlight this time of year. But the overall pattern change, the jet stream is getting weak, and it's getting into a pattern of being kind of stuck and bogged down. And for most cases of the northern plains, central plains, Corn Belt areas of the United States, generally speaking, it looks not particularly wet and not particularly uncomfortable temperature-wise. So a pretty good weather pattern to kind of segue into the real heart, the big thrust of the growing season. For the northern plains, farmers are just waiting to get out into the fields. And this is a weather pattern that will get us there eventually. It's not terribly warm, but it is mostly dry. Jet stream winds are still coming out of the north. You may have noticed this circle. This is where an upper level low is going to kind of get cut off from the primary flow out along the west coast. This will bring some precipitation, again, unwanted rain and snow into the Sierras. There'll probably be some snowfall in the northern Rockies, but most of this pattern will be fairly dry. The one exception is where the upper level winds are bringing cooler weather down into the southeast and the east coast. There will be some areas of showers and thunderstorms here. Note the cold weather has really retreated to up around the Hudson Bay region. And as we go through this week, we're not seeing a ridge of high pressure anywhere except over the northern Rockies. Now, you'll notice this warm weather pattern in Alberta. That's actually quite common. When you get into May, it's not unusual to get weather into the 70s and 80s and sometimes 90s up here, up in the boreal forest even sometimes, up into the Northwest Territories. It just happens. Seasonally, the snow melts up there, and it tends to get fairly warm. The Hudson Bay region tends to be slow to warm in the spring because of the ice on the bay, and so it's not unusual for the cool pattern to persist around the Great Lakes into the northeast and sometimes the northern plains. But because of this ridge, that pattern, that impact is not going to be too strong. Into the second week, starting to see the subtropical jet stream beginning to take shape. That's also typical for this time of year, but overall, this is a fairly weak-looking weather pattern. Precipitation-wise, there will be rain and snow in the Pacific Northwest, the northern Rockies, mostly higher elevation stuff. Rain and thunder showers along the southeast and the east coast. Probably some light snows around the Great Lakes. The second week now, the first full, complete week of May, looks mostly dry in the central northern plains, upper Midwest. Showers, thunder showers in the southeast, and a shrinking area of precipitation, mostly in the heart of the Rocky Mountains.